Flight 13 slipped to Thursday, and the reason might be bigger than the 2 engines we were told about. Meanwhile, the Flight 14 hardware is already testing. NASA just showed us what the Artemis III Starship will actually look like, and there's a detail in those renders that doesn't add up. Let's dig in. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It. Let's dive right in. Starship updates. Let's start with the launch everyone is waiting for, Starship Flight 13. The new date for the second attempt moved again. Flight 13 is still in fix mode. Booster 20 is inside Megabay 1, Ship 40 is inside Megabay 2, and on Sunday, SpaceX announced they would not be launching on Monday, July 20th. The new target is Thursday, July 23rd, that is tomorrow. Elon Musk did cause a slight confusion by quoting SpaceX's announcement and saying Friday instead. He did clear that up as a mistake on his end. It is slated for Thursday. Another sign that his account definitely is not being run by a social media manager or a Task Force X or something. I like it. Mistakes happen, launch is Thursday as per SpaceX. So, what happened? Well, officially we don't know. Musk initially said 2 engines needed replacement. Either SpaceX found more problems than they first thought, or implementing the new engines simply took longer than planned. Or maybe it's not just the 2 engines. That's speculation on my part. There is no official confirmation, but there is a clue and we'll get to it in a moment. First though, let's deal with a concern that's been growing in the community, the weather. There is a tropical depression active in the northeastern Gulf right now, expected to become Tropical Storm Bertha. And whenever a named storm shows up in the Gulf during launch week, the questions start. Will it scrub Thursday? Will it wipe out the backup days? So, let's do a little investigation. Why weather report with a twist? The system is moving slowly northwestward, and every forecast has it staying near the northern Gulf Coast. Florida Panhandle, Louisiana, Mississippi, that's far to the northeast of Starbase, and the heavy rain, winds, and flooding threats stay up there with it. Down at Starbase, the local picture for Thursday looks like this. Hot, mostly sunny, highs around 97 to 101 degrees Fahrenheit, around 36 to 38 Celsius, with a heat index pushing 110. Winds from the southeast at 10 to 18 miles per hour, breezy but nothing unusual. Chance of showers around 20% or less, and the same dry, hot pattern holds for Friday and Saturday. So here's the answer for the community's worry. No bad weather is bearing down on Starbase for Thursday or the follow-on days. The tropical system stays north and east. At most, we get some extra humidity and a few clouds. If SpaceX gets Booster 20's fixes done in time, weather should not be a thing standing in the way. Launch attempt Thursday, backup Friday, both look good. One advice, with an index pushing toward 110 Fahrenheit or devastating 43 Celsius, anyone going to watch live, be advised, stay hydrated, stay in the shade if you can. Remember, stay fresh out there, it is getting hot. And of course, we'll be streaming the whole thing live. The link to our stream is on the card at the very end of this episode. Watch till the end, click it, and set your reminder. Now here's the part that tells you where this program is actually heading. While Flight 13 sits in the shop, the Flight 14 hardware is already at the test site. That's right. Booster 21 arrived at Massey's on July 17th. Since then, it has completed its ambient pressure test, which is nearly impossible to spot from the outside because there is no frosting involved. And then it ran 2 cryogenic-proof tests, one on the 19th and one on the 20th. That should complete its campaign. I expect SpaceX to roll Booster 21 back to Megabay 1 soon. Maybe it already has by the time you're watching this. Here's the crazy part. This means both the booster and the ship for Flight 14 are through their structural testing. Both are ready to receive engines and head into static fires. Flight 14 in August looks highly likely. Remember Gwynne Shotwell's statement at the IPO back in episode 554?
So what is it, beginning of June? Maybe a month-ish away from Flight 13? Okay. And then we should fly every month.
Flight 13 in July, then monthly cadence. 12, 13, and 14, 3 ships in 3 months. The plan is now visibly in action at Starbase. This might be the biggest cadence ramp this place has ever seen, and it shows 2 things. First, SpaceX's intent to stick to the set timeline is real. Artemis III with its Orion docking, the in-orbit refueling demo, Starlink V3 deployment, those are the top priority items on SpaceX's list, and Artemis III is slated for no earlier than late 2027. 17 months are left to win this race against the Starship gremlins that are still plaguing these test launches. Seeing Booster 21 and Ship 41 ready for engine installation is exactly the sign you want to see in a race against time. Second, the numbers. If SpaceX keeps this pace, Flight 18 leaves the pad before the end of this year. Let's put that in context. SpaceX launched 2 Starships in 2023, 4 in 2024, 5 in 2025. Getting to Flight 18 this year would mean 7 launches in 2026. Even 6 would mark another year-over-year increase, and that's despite not launching at all for the first 4 months of the year while the version 3 infrastructure was being built. To achieve any of this, SpaceX needs one thing above all: engines. Lots of them. Built, tested, and shipped to Starbase in a never-ending stream. And that stream is visible right now. More and more Raptor 3 engines are being spotted moving through McGregor, Texas, where SpaceX is running high-speed testing to keep up with Starbase's demand. This past weekend alone, NSF's cameras caught engine R167 heading out for another round of testing and another Raptor 3 rolling toward the stands the next morning. Let me put that demand into perspective. One full Starship stack flies 39 Raptor 3 engines. 33 on the booster, 6 on the ship. If SpaceX launches 6 Starships this year and no engines get reused, that is 234 Raptor 3 engines produced, tested, and flown in 12 months. That's almost 20 engines per month, roughly 4 per week, every week. That is the industrial reality behind the launch cadence. The rocket factory only works if the engine factory keeps up. And now the clue I mentioned earlier, because we have the first confirmed engine swap on Booster 20. These days there are tens of thousands of tracked fragments circling Earth right now. Dead satellites, spent rocket stages, shrapnels from old collisions. The hard part was never spotting them. It's that you can't ever fully clear them out. Your personal data online works in the same way, which is where today's sponsor comes in. Something that I love to use myself, Incogni. Data brokers are quietly collecting and selling your name, your address, your phone number, even your relatives' details. This is feeding scams, spam, and worse. Time to get protected. Incogni sends removal requests to hundreds of these brokers on your behalf, and because that data creeps back, it keeps doing it automatically. It's even possible to point their specialists at almost any site that's exposed your data. Incogni is the first and only data removal service independently verified by Deloitte, and every plan comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your data back with Incogni. Use code Felix to get 60% off an annual plan, incogni.com/Felix. Try it out today and help What About It in return. Raptor 3 serial number 152 was spotted sitting in position E16 on Booster 20 during the rollback after the abort. Days later, cameras at McGregor caught the very same engine arriving there. Here's why that is interesting. Position E16 is on the outer ring. This is not one of the engines that failed to light during the aborted ignition on the first Flight 13 attempt. So SpaceX is pulling engines that weren't part of the visible failure. That might explain why this is taking longer than the initial estimate. And it lines up with something we saw before. Back during Booster 19's aborted static fire for Flight 12, the rapid shutdown ended up damaging additional engines just by aborting that fast. Fast shutdowns are violent events for a rocket engine. If a turbopump is already running and a valve shuts down in front of it to stop the engines, pressure spikes, also called hammering, are a serious problem. SpaceX might be swapping more than just the 2 engines Musk mentioned. The abort itself may have created casualties. It is my speculation, but it might be the real story behind the slip to Thursday. SpaceX's world never stands still, so let's hop over to Florida. At Pad 39A, another puzzle piece just went in. The methane booster quick disconnect door has been installed on the Starship pad. That's the armored door protecting one of the 2 booster fueling interfaces, the same twin QD design we know from Pad 2 at Starbase. SpaceX is rapidly approaching the point where first pad tests can be expected at 39A. Officially, SpaceX stays cautious and milestone-driven on Florida dates. But we do have statements on record. In early February, Lee Eckert, SpaceX's senior mission manager for human spaceflight, said the company is clearing 39A for, quote, hopefully our first Starship launches later this year. End quote. Kiko Donchev, VP of Launch, added that Starship would be well vetted at Starbase before flying from Florida. His words, "You're going to get a vetted machine that shows up ready to party." The FAA has already approved up to 44 Starship launches per year from 39A back in January. And my independent research assesses the pad as likely just a few months from operational, with a vehicle possibly stacking there by the end of the year. The last part is my assessment, not a SpaceX statement, but the visible pace supports it. Sleek 37 is the longer game. No announced target date there, and long lead times on cryogenic tanks mean it is likely years, not months. But 39A? Yeah, 39A is close. Now to the story with the most interesting wrinkle this week. NASA published a new article about the Artemis III demonstration mission with fresh renders of the orbital docking tests, which Elliot, of course, turned into incredible-looking animations for us. And there is a detail in those renders we're stopping on. First, the context. As we covered when the restructure was announced, Artemis III flying in 2027 is no longer a moon landing. It is a crude rendezvous and docking demonstration in Earth orbit ahead of the actual landing on Artemis IV in 2028. Orion will perform 2 separate back-to-back rendezvous and docking maneuvers, one with Blue Origin's test lander and one with SpaceX's. NASA confirms SpaceX will fly a test version based on Starship version 3, the basis of the future Starship HLS, not a full HLS. We knew that. A full HLS Starship won't be ready in time, so SpaceX substitutes a modified standard ship to practice the docking. That accelerates the timeline. But now look closely at Elliot's animation. The Orion capsule docks at the tip of the Starship nose cone. That is the part that doesn't add up, because we know what's inside a version 3 nose cone. It is packed. Landing header tanks for the flip and burn, COPVs for engine startups, the plumbing that connects all of it. There is no room in that tip for a docking adapter. So while the Artemis III Starship won't be a full HLS, it also won't be anything close to a standard Starship. If Orion really docks at the nose tip, that entire section has to be redesigned. Header tanks relocated or removed, pressure vessels moved, plumbing rerouted. Extensive modifications on a vehicle NASA is calling a modified standard ship, which brings back a mystery from a few weeks ago. Remember the strange nose cone we covered in episode 556? The one with the bracket, the pipe socket, and the 6 connection holes near the top? There is still no confirmed link between that hardware and this specialized docking prototype. We're honestly still in the dark on what that nose cone is for. So let me throw it to you. What do you think? Is SpaceX freeing up space in the nose tip for a docking adapter? Or is that mystery hardware some sort of fueling port? Let me know in the comments. Whatever the answer, the mission itself is going to be a spectacle. Jeremy Parsons, the Artemis III program manager, put it like this. Quote, Artemis III will be a highly choreographed dance with a demanding launch sequence across multiple launch pads and equally demanding mission operations for our ground and flight crews, making it one of the most complex and ambitious missions NASA has ever undertaken. End quote. Think about what that dance looks like. SLS launching Orion to low Earth orbit. Blue Origin getting its Blue Moon Mark II test lander up for rendezvous and docking. And SpaceX doing the same with a specialized Starship docking prototype, 3 vehicles, multiple pads, 2 dockings, 1 mission. That will be incredible to watch unfold. And the hardware for SpaceX's part of it is taking shape at Starbase right now. At least, hopefully. Let's look forward to Flight 13 together. It is set for tomorrow, July 23rd. Let's watch it together. Yay, you've reached the middle of the video. You made it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and liking the video. If you're among the 40% who haven't subscribed yet and there was at least one video you learned something new from, it would mean the world to me if you did. It is free and it genuinely helps more people find my channel. Want to make my world even easier? There's only one place you would rather be. The Y Members Club on Patreon and right here on YouTube. Click the card or the join button under the video. You are the reason we keep doing this. Thank you so much. You rock. Let's go to the high seas now. Picture a ship just sitting there in the South China Sea on a Friday morning. And stretched across its deck, a net, a big one, held up by steel cables. Now look up, because falling out of the sky tail first is the first stage of an orbital rocket. It is slowing itself down using a single engine. This rocket stage is not even small, comparable to a Falcon 9's, and just 11 minutes earlier it was on a launch pad. Seeing a boat being used as a rocket landing platform is nothing new. SpaceX does it quite often, and Blue Origin has also landed its New Glenn booster on its drone ship Jacqueline. But this booster is not about to land. There is no touchdown on landing legs. This booster is about to be caught, similar to a Starship, but not similar at all. 4 hooks mounted near the top of the booster snag the landing platform's cables. The net then soaks up the last of the energy, and with that, China just became the second country in history to bring an orbital-class booster home in one piece. Now, this is a different approach. No legs, no landing pad. Instead, a net on a boat. This is the Long March 10B, and it is out there to change the Chinese space launch situation profoundly. Let me walk you through. On July 10th, just after midnight U.S. Eastern Time, which is mid-morning in China, a Long March 10B lifted off from the Hainan commercial space launch site at Wenshang. It was the first time this vehicle had ever flown. The first stage did its job flawlessly. It burned for a few minutes and then separated from the upper stage. So far, Chinese rockets have been old school. Once a booster has done its job, it becomes very expensive scrap and falls into the ocean. But not this one. Instead, we saw what has become normal for us watching Falcon 9's almost every day. The booster flipped around, ready to make its way back down to Earth in a controlled manner. Long March 10B's booster uses small nitrogen thrusters to wing itself tail down, then the grid fins take over. Grid fins are the little waffle-looking panels near the top that steer it through the atmosphere. Another technology we see frequently on rockets these days. For the final approach, the booster relights 3 of its engines to kill off the speed before it throttles down to just 1 engine for the delicate final approach. The system seems to have worked just as intended. The booster approached Lingshanxie, roughly meaning Pathfinder, the dedicated recovery ship. Here, a net system made of steel cables waited for the incoming booster. 4 hooks catch the rocket stage, and auxiliary cables are used to lock it down firmly and protect it from the wind and waves. The whole operation, from stage separation to being secured on the deck, took about 6 minutes. The recovery ship was positioned 430 kilometers downrange. That about sums up the part that was confirmed by China's State Space Corporation CASC. Let's have a look at why the method is the whole story. Falcon 9 lands itself upright on folding legs. It can do so on land, at a pad, or on a drone ship waiting out at sea. It comes down tail first, landing on a pillar of flames. This solution defined the last decade of spaceflight. What was once believed to be an impossible solution now looks easy thanks to the hard work of many very gifted engineers. Now, China has added the next idea to the list. But to be fair, they did not come up with this one entirely on their own. Similar ideas floated around before. Heck, at some point we even speculated here at Y that SpaceX could try something similar for Starship. That was before they had actually started building Mechazilla. Still, it looks like this system does actually work. The booster flies into a net strung across a ship, and the ship does the catching. The remaining question is, why even bother with a net? There are good reasons to go with this approach. Landing legs mean the booster carries its entire recovery system, all the way up and then all the way back down. Landing legs and the needed mechanisms that come with them are heavy. They have to be, because they have to take a heavy load in a dynamic scenario. Quite simply, it is extra weight, and every kilogram you can save here translates to more payload capacity, more capability for the rocket. Now think about the net. This approach moves all that weight and complexity off the rocket and onto the ground, or onto the ship in this case. In return, the booster gets to be lighter and at the same time simpler. Fewer systems mean fewer failure points, just what you want in any vehicle and especially on a rocket. China's own engineers put the payoff in simple words. Net recovery simplifies the vehicle, cuts weight, and boosts how much you can carry. This is a very similar approach to what SpaceX did on its Starship Super Heavy booster and soon on the ship. That is the very reason why they decided to catch the stage's greatly reduced weight. Now that we've talked a lot about the now successful catch strategy, let's have a look at the rocket and how it compares to other, more familiar rockets. Long March 10B stands around 63 meters tall, just a bit shorter than Falcon 9's 70 meters. Its diameter is 5 meters, which makes it wider than the Falcon 9's main body at 3.7 meters. At launch, the two-stage rocket weighs in at roughly 760 tons, and it is pushed off the pad with around 887 tons of thrust. Looking at the engines, you'll find even more similarities to Falcon 9. The first stage runs 7 YF-100K engines, and these are burning kerosene and liquid oxygen. Kerolox, the same basic propellant family that is used by both the Falcon rockets and a trusted veteran, Soyuz. A logical choice when you want to build on well-understood propulsion technology, but when looking at the upper stage, things are a lot different. Up here, the chosen propellant is Methalox, a mix of methane and oxygen feeding the single YF-219 engine, a cleaner-burning kind of fuel that you can also find on Starship and Blue Origin's New Glenn. The payload capacity is basically on par with Falcon 9. It can deliver 16 tons to LEO, while Falcon 9 can pack an additional ton for a total of 17 tons. Both numbers are for a reusable mission profile, and the capacity can be extended on both rockets when they are purposely expended. One more detail about this first catch mission for LM-10B is quite impressive. Even though it was this system's maiden flight, it flew with a real payload. On top of the rocket was an actual satellite, not a mass dummy. Okay, so China has joined the first stage recovery club. Its engineers have proven that a net catch for an orbital rocket booster is possible. Quite an impressive party trick, but does it actually matter? Yes, and it is much more than a publicity stunt. China has two goals with a countdown quietly ticking in the background. The first one is the moon. Long March 10 is a whole family of rockets, and the 10B shared its first stage with the LM-10 crewed version. That is no coincidence. China is racing to put Chinese astronauts on the lunar surface before 2030. Reusability isn't just about saving money here. It's about cadence, about being able to fly often and reliably. Cracking booster recovery is a step on that road to that crewed lunar program. The second goal is missed by a lot of people. It's the one thing that is powering SpaceX: satellite internet. Right now, China is building two giant broadband mega constellations. These Starlink competitors are called Guowang and Qianfan. Both constellations are planned to include thousands of satellites. And here's the squeeze. To keep their international radio spectrum rights, each of those constellations has to get at least 10% of its planned network into orbit by the end of 2026. That's a hard regulatory deadline. Use the spectrum or risk losing the claim. Just the same problem that Amazon's LEO constellation faces. These deadlines are, quite frankly, nearly impossible to meet. But in the end, proving that you can massively accelerate deployment by rolling out new launch vehicles might make a difference here. These are excellent arguments when dealing with the regulatory bodies to get additional leeway. And that's it for today. Smash that like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. Our all-time favorite Raptor engine design and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. And if you want to watch Starship Flight 13 with the Y Team and with me, click the linked video. Set your reminders, get your favorite beverage ready, and snack up. It is Starship launch day again tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.